I was cooking dinner when my husband dropped divorce papers on the counter. "She's pregnant," he said. Then he told me his mistress was moving into my home. I cried once. Then I packed one box and made one call. The sauce was still simmering when he said it. Grant had been distant for months. Not distant enough for me to leave. Just distant enough to make me feel crazy every time I noticed it. He came home late. He kept his phone face down. He started locking it when he never used to. He picked small fights and acted exhausted when I reacted. When I asked if we could talk, he said I was dramatic. When I asked if there was someone else, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "You really need to stop inventing problems." So I stopped asking. That night, he walked in without taking off his coat. He didn't say hello. He didn't kiss my cheek or make one of his usual comments about how the place smelled like garlic. He crossed the kitchen, pulled a thick envelope from under his arm, and dropped it on the island. "What is that?" I asked. Grant's face was calm. Too calm. "I'm filing for divorce." For a few seconds, my brain refused to understand the sentence. "What?" "I'm filing," he said. "I already talked to someone." I reached for the counter because my knees went soft. "You talked to someone before you talked to me?" His jaw shifted. I didn't want another emotional scene. That was when my chest started tightening. Another emotional scene. Like our marriage ending was an inconvenience. Like my reaction was the real problem. I whispered, "Is there someone else?" He looked away. That was the answer. Yes. I had imagined that moment before. I think most women do when something starts feeling wrong. You imagine the confession, the apology, the shame. Grant gave me none of that. He said, "Her name is Willow." I knew the name. I had met her once at a holiday dinner for the insurance office where Grant worked. She stood beside him near the bar, laughing too hard at something he said. When he introduced me, she smiled and told me I had beautiful hair. I remembered thinking she seemed young. That thought came back like a slap. "How long?" I asked. "Don't do this." "How long, Grant?" He exhaled through his nose. "Almost 8 months." The room tilted. 8 months meant he had been coming home to me after being with her. It meant he had sat across from me during dinners and asked about my day while carrying another life in his pocket. It meant every time I blamed myself for being suspicious, I had been right. He kept talking because silence made him uncomfortable. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I almost laughed. People say that when they mean they wanted the damage without the consequences. Then he said the part that cut deeper than the affair. "She's pregnant." My hand slipped off the counter. I stared at him. "She's what?" "Pregnant," he said. "For months." The words landed in the room, but my mind would not touch them. For 2 years, we had been trying. 2 years of late periods that turned into nothing. 2 years of vitamins on the bathroom counter. 2 years of me sitting on cold tile floors with negative tests in my lap, trying not to hate my own body. Grant knew every part of that pain. He knew the doctor appointments. He knew the calendars. He knew how badly I wanted to be a mother. He knew I had folded a tiny yellow onesie into the back of my drawer because I bought it on a day when I still had hope. And he chose that wound to twist. "She's giving me a family," he said quietly. "I can't keep pretending with you." A sound came out of me, but it did not feel human. "You got her pregnant," I said. He rubbed his forehead. "Cassidy, please." Hearing my name from his mouth made me sick. "Don't say my name like you're the one suffering. I'm trying to handle this respectfully." Respectfully? My voice broke on the word. Grant looked irritated, like my grief was making him late for something. "I didn't come here to fight." "No," I said. "You came here to destroy me before dinner." His face hardened. That was when I saw it clearly. He was not sorry. He was ready. He had prepared for my tears, my questions, and my anger. Then he reached into the envelope and pulled out a few pages. "There's more." I looked at the papers but didn't touch them. What more could there possibly be? He straightened, and something smug passed over his face. "I need you to move out." The room went silent except for the sauce bubbling behind me. I blinked. "Move out of where?" "The loft." For a second, I thought he was confused. Maybe he meant he was moving out. Maybe the shock had scrambled the words in my head. But he didn't correct himself. "My loft?" I asked. "Our loft," he said. And there it was. The thing he had resented since the day we got married. The loft was mine before Grant. My grandparents had left money in a trust, and years before I walked down the aisle, that trust bought the place outright. Grant moved in after the wedding. At first, he said he loved it. He loved the tall windows, the open kitchen, the view, the way people reacted when they visited. Then the comments started. He said it must be nice. He said it was hard to feel like a husband when his wife owned the roof. He said people probably thought he was living off me. I tried to make him feel like it was our home. I let him choose furniture. I put his photos on the walls. I agreed he would pay the HA fees and utilities because he said he needed to feel like he was contributing. I never thought he was building a legal fantasy out of it. Grant tapped the pages. I've paid the HOA for years. I've paid utilities. I've paid maintenance costs. I've contributed to this property. You paid bills while living here. I have equity. I stared at him. You have what? My attorney said this is the marital home. I felt the fear hit before the anger did. Because Grant sounded sure. He stepped closer, lowering his voice like he was being generous. You make more than I do. You have options. Willow doesn't. Her lease ends next month, and she needs somewhere stable before the baby comes. I gripped the island. You want to move your pregnant mistress into my home. Our home. Stop saying that. It is our home, Cassidy. No. It is the home I let you live in. His calm mask cracked. There it is, he said. That is exactly why this marriage never worked. I looked at him, stunned. He pointed around the kitchen. You always had the upper hand. The money, the property, the safety net. I was just supposed to be grateful. You cheated on me for 8 months. And you made me feel small for years. That was when I realized he had rewritten everything. Every compromise I made became control. Every bill I paid became humiliation. Every kindness became proof that I had wronged him. He wasn't leaving because he betrayed me. In his mind, he was escaping me. How long do I have? I asked. 30 days. He said it like he was discussing a parking ticket. Willow's lease ends at the end of next month. We want to have the nursery ready before the baby comes. The nursery. There was a room down the hall that I had never called a nursery out loud because I was afraid to jinx it. I called it the guest room, the office, the extra room. But in my head, I had painted it 100 times. White crib. Soft rug. Little bookshelf. Morning light across the floor. Grant knew that. He knew exactly what he was taking. I lowered myself onto the kitchen floor because my legs couldn't hold me anymore. Grant stood above me with the divorce papers in his hand. I know this hurts, he said. But you need to be practical. There was a time when I would have begged. There was a time when I would have asked what I did wrong, promised to change, asked him to remember who we used to be. But something about him standing over me while I was breaking made the love inside me start dying. I pushed myself up, grabbed my phone, and called my sister. When Monica answered, I could barely speak. Can I come over? Her voice changed immediately. What happened? I looked at Grant. He looked annoyed, like I was dragging other people into private business. I can't stay here tonight, I said. Monica didn't ask another question. Come now. I went to the bedroom, took my purse, a coat, and nothing else. Grant watched me from the hall. You don't have to make this ugly, he said. I stopped with my hand on the door. You already did. Then I left. The drive to Monica's house felt unreal. Rain smeared the traffic lights into red and green streaks. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly my fingers hurt. Monica opened the front door before I even turned off the car. She wrapped her arms around me, and I broke. I told her everything in broken pieces. The divorce. The affair. The pregnancy. The 30-day deadline. The fact that he wanted my home. When I got to the part about the nursery, her eyes filled with tears. He said that, she whispered. I nodded. Her husband stood in the kitchen pretending not to listen, but his face was pale. Monica gave me the guest room. I lay there in the dark with my clothes still on, staring at the ceiling while the whole night pressed down on me. I cried until I had nothing left. Then, sometime before sunrise, the pain sharpened into something colder. Grant thought I didn't understand money. He thought I didn't understand property. He thought I would be too broken to question him. By morning, I was not begging for my marriage. I was making a phone call. At 8 the next morning, I called Patrick. Patrick was the property manager connected to my grandparents' trust. He was not a lawyer, and he never pretended to be one. But he knew the property records, the title history, and every document attached to the loft. The second I told him Grant believed HOA payments gave him equity, Patrick went quiet. Then he said, Cassidy, no. Just that. No. I sat up on Monica's guest bed, still wearing yesterday's clothes. What does that mean? It means he is either lying to you, or someone gave him very bad advice. My throat tightened. Can he force me out? No, Patrick said. Not based on what you're telling me. Patrick explained it carefully. The loft was held by the trust. Grant's name was not on the title. He had not purchased it, refinanced it, or put money into buying it. Paying the HOA and utilities while living there did not turn him into an owner. That is household expense, Patrick said. Not ownership. He says it's the marital home. It may have been used as your marital residence, Patrick said, but that does not mean he owns it. Then he added the part that mattered. I'm connecting you with the trust attorney today. Do not change the locks. Do not throw his things out. Do not threaten him. We do it properly. Properly. That word grounded me. The version of me that had cried on the kitchen floor wanted chaos. She wanted to drag his clothes into the rain. She wanted to call Willow and tell her exactly what kind of man she was building a life with. But chaos would only help Grant. So I listened. The attorney called me that afternoon. She confirmed what Patrick said. Grant had no ownership claim to the loft through HOA payments. He could argue about other marital finances later, but he could not simply take possession of property held by my family trust. She also told me something that changed my plan. Because Grant had been living there, I could not just throw him out overnight. We needed written notice. We needed documentation. If he refused to leave, the trust could pursue the proper legal process. But if he chose to leave voluntarily after receiving notice, that would be the cleanest outcome. Then she asked me, has he given you a move-out date? Yes, I said. Mine. There was a pause. He gave you a date to vacate your own property? 30 days. And he intends to move someone else in? Yes. The attorney exhaled softly. Then let's be very precise. She prepared everything. A letter confirming the trust's ownership. A copy of the relevant property records. A formal notice revoking Grant's permission to occupy the loft. A demand that he remove his personal belongings by the date he had already chosen. A warning that if he attempted to move another person into the property without authorization, the trust would take immediate legal action. I could have shown it to Grant that night. I could have walked in, slammed the documents on the counter, and watched his confidence drain out of him. But that would have given him time. Time to argue. Time to twist the story. Time to warn Willow. Time to make himself look like the victim before anyone had the truth. Grant had given me 30 days because he thought I was powerless. So I gave him 30 days too. I went back to the loft that evening. He looked surprised when I walked in. You're back, he said. I live here, I answered. His mouth tightened, but he said nothing. For the next month, I became exactly what Grant expected me to be. Quiet. Tired. Defeated. I still went to work. I still answered emails. I still bought groceries because I could not let him see how badly I wanted to stop functioning. But inside the loft, I moved like a ghost. I bought cardboard boxes. I stacked them near the dining table. I labeled them in black marker. Grant noticed immediately. Thank you for being reasonable, he said one night. I was wrapping mugs in newspaper. I looked up slowly. Reasonable? I mean it, he said. I know this is hard. But it's better if we don't fight. I taped the box shut. You don't want to fight. You just want everything. He sighed like I was disappointing him. I'm trying to build a stable life for my child. His child. Not our child. Not the child we had prayed for. The one he made with Willow while I was counting days on a calendar and pretending I was not terrified every time my period came. I looked down before my face betrayed me. Grant took my silence as surrender. That was his biggest mistake. Every few days, I moved things into a storage unit on the edge of Raleigh. But I did not empty the loft the way he thought I was emptying it. I took what mattered most to me. Family photos. Documents. Jewelry. Small things my grandmother had saved. Anything Grant could damage if he panicked. The furniture stayed. The art stayed. The life he thought he was inheriting stayed exactly where it was. He became bold halfway through the month. Willow's name started appearing on packages. First maternity clothes. Then a baby monitor. Then nursery decals with soft little stars printed on them. Grant opened that box at the kitchen island while I stood nearby holding a roll of packing tape. She likes simple things, he said. I did not answer. He held up one of the decals. What do you think? I looked at the tiny stars and saw them above a crib that should have been mine. Looks fine, I said. He smiled. Victorious. A week later, I came home and found him standing in the guest room with paint samples spread across the floor. Pale green. Warm white. Butter yellow. My desk had been pushed against the wall. What are you doing? I asked. Just planning. Planning what? The nursery. The word hit the room like a physical thing. I stayed in the doorway. Grant held 2 paint cards against the wall. Willow thinks green is more calming, but I don't want it to look too trendy. He had the nerve to look excited. That room had been where I kept the books I bought when I was trying not to obsess over pregnancy. It was where I hid the baby catalog after the first doctor told me not to lose hope. It was where I once stood with my hand on my stomach after a late period, whispering, please. Grant knew exactly what that room meant. Do not paint anything, I said. He turned. We can talk about colors later. No, I said. Do not paint anything. His expression sharpened. You're leaving anyway. I almost reached into my bag and pulled out the attorney's letter right there. Instead, I said, then wait until I'm gone. He accepted that because it sounded like defeat. The next day, Monica begged me to tell him. Cassidy, I understand why you're angry, she said. But this is eating you alive. We were sitting in her kitchen. She had made coffee, but mine had gone cold. He deserves to know what he's walking into, she said. He knew what he was doing when he told me to leave. I know. But Willow is pregnant. That name made my stomach twist. She knew he was married. Are you sure? I hated that question because I wasn't. I knew Willow had met me. She had smiled at me. She had seen Grant put his hand on my back at that holiday dinner. But had Grant told her we were separated? Had he told her the loft was partly his? Had he painted me as cold and controlling until she believed him? Maybe. Maybe not. That uncertainty became the one bruise I could not stop pressing. I said, he gave me 30 days because he thought it would hurt more. Monica looked at me with sad eyes. And you're giving it back. I did not deny it. My father called me 3 days before the move. Derek had never liked Grant much, but he had kept it polite because I loved him. When Monica told him what happened, he went silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. Then he said, tell me what you need. I need you there on moving day, I said. I'll be there. I need Tanner and Wesley too. They'll be there. I explained that nobody was touching Grant's things unless he agreed to pack. I explained the attorney's letter. I explained that everything needed witnesses. Calm. Legal. No violence. No shouting unless Grant started something. My father listened. Then he said, I'll keep your brothers calm. That almost made me smile. Can you? No, he said. But I'll try. The night before moving day, Grant walked around the loft like he already owned it. He drank from my favorite mug. He opened cabinets and made comments about where they would put baby bottles. He talked about getting a new couch because Willow wanted something softer. I sat at the dining table with one final box in front of me. What time is she coming? I asked. He looked pleased that I asked. Late morning. Around 11:30. With a truck. Yes. He leaned against the counter, smiling slightly. I know this has been painful, Cassidy. But I think someday you'll see this was best for everyone. There was nothing left in me for that man. No argument. No plea. No final attempt to make him understand the size of what he had done. Maybe, I said. His smile grew because he thought he had finally broken me into politeness. That night, I slept in the bed we used to share and did not cry. The papers were in my purse. My father and brothers were ready. The attorney knew the time. And Grant had no idea that the moving truck coming for my home was about to leave with only his life inside it. Moving day arrived bright and cold. Grant woke up early, showered, and put on a sweatshirt like he was preparing for a casual Saturday. He made coffee in my kitchen, opened the blinds, and hummed under his breath. I stood near the dining table, taping one last box that had almost nothing in it. He glanced at me. You don't have to stay for this, he said. I know. It might be easier if you leave before Willow gets here. I pressed the tape flat. For who? Grant stared at me. Then he looked away. By 10:30, my father and brothers were already nearby. They parked a few blocks away like we planned. I let them in through the back entrance before Grant noticed, and they waited in the hallway near the laundry room. My father looked at my face and lowered his voice. You're sure? I nodded. Tanner's jaw was tight. Wesley kept flexing his hands like he wanted something to do with them. No one touches him, I said. Tanner looked offended. I wasn't going to. My father gave him a look. Tanner muttered, fine. I almost laughed, but my throat was too tight. At 11:27, I heard the truck. A loud engine. Brakes outside. A heavy door slamming. Grant's whole face changed. He looked relieved. Happy. That was the ugliest part. After everything, after watching me pack boxes for a month, after hearing me cry through the wall, he looked happy. She's here, he said. I picked up my purse. He didn't notice. He walked to the window, smiled, and went downstairs to meet her. From inside the loft, I watched Willow step out of the moving truck. She had one hand on her stomach and the other holding her phone. She looked tired, anxious, and excited all at once. Grant hugged her. Then he kissed her. Right there on the sidewalk outside my building. I felt Wesley shift behind me. Don't, my father said quietly. I didn't say anything, Wesley muttered. You breathed angry. Grant put his hand on Willow's stomach, and she smiled up at him. For a second, the cold rage inside me cracked and grief rushed through. Because I had wanted that. Not with Willow. Not like this. But I had wanted Grant to look at me that way. I had wanted a baby to make him softer. I had wanted our pain to turn into something good. Instead, he turned it into a weapon. Grant led Willow toward the entrance. I stepped into the middle of the living room. My father stood behind me. Tanner and Wesley stood on either side of him. When Grant opened the door, he was smiling. Then he saw them. The smile dropped. "What is this?" he asked. Willow was behind him, struggling with a tote bag over her shoulder. I looked at Grant and pulled the papers from my purse. "You were right about one thing," I said. "Someone is moving out today." His eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" I held out the documents. He did not take them at first. "Cassidy, take them." Willow stepped around him, confused. "Why is your family here?" Grant ignored her and snatched the papers from my hand. I watched his face as he read. At first, he looked irritated, then confused, then pale. His eyes moved faster. He flipped to the next page, then back to the first. His hand tightened around the stack until the paper bent. "What is this?" he said. "It's the trust documentation, the title record, the attorney's letter, and formal notice that you are not authorized to move anyone into this property." He looked up. "That's not how this works." "It is." "No," my attorney said. "Your attorney was wrong. Or you lied to him." His mouth opened, then closed. Willow looked between us. "What does that mean?" Grant did not answer. So I did. "It means he does not own this loft. He never did. He cannot move you in. He cannot make me leave. The attorney has already documented everything. If he refuses to leave, the trust will begin formal removal immediately." Willow's face changed slowly. She looked at Grant like she was waiting for him to laugh and say I was crazy. He didn't. "Grant," she said. "Tell me she's lying." He swallowed. I could see him trying to rebuild the lie in real time. "It's complicated." Willow's voice sharpened. "What is complicated?" He turned toward her, lowering his voice. "Just give me a second." "No," she said. "You told me this was handled." "It is handled." She is standing in the living room. My father stepped forward just enough for Grant to remember he was not alone. Grant pointed at me. "She waited to do this on purpose." I nodded. "Yes." His face twisted. "You let her give up her apartment." "I did not make promises to her." "You did." Willow's eyes filled with tears. "You said we were moving in today." Grant turned toward her. "We are going to figure it out." "With what?" she snapped. "My lease ended this morning." I gave them the keys. The room went still. For the first time that day, I looked directly at Willow without the shield of anger. She was young. Younger than I wanted her to be. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold, and her hand kept moving protectively over her stomach. A part of me hated her. A part of me pitied her. Both parts were real. Grant stepped toward me, dropping his voice into the tone he used when he wanted to control a room. "Cassidy, don't do this." I almost smiled. He had said that to me when I asked who she was. When I asked how long. When I cried, "Don't do this." As if the damage began only when I stopped accepting it. "You have two choices," I said. "You can pack your belongings calmly with my father and brothers present as witnesses, or you can refuse and speak to the attorney directly." His eyes flicked to Tanner and Wesley. Tanner folded his arms. Wesley smiled, but not kindly. Grant looked back at the papers. "This is insane." "No," I said. "Insane was thinking I would hand you my grandparents' home so you could decorate a nursery with your mistress." Willow flinched. "Good. Not because I wanted her harmed, but because I wanted someone in that room to finally feel the truth." Grant tried calling his attorney from the hallway. No answer. He called again. Then again. Each time, his panic became more visible. Willow went outside, crying into her phone. After 15 minutes, Grant came back in and said, "I need more time." "No. You cannot expect me to move everything today. You expected me to." His face hardened. "That was different. Because I was supposed to be easier to throw away?" He had no answer for that. My father spoke then, calm and low. "Pack your clothes, your work things, and anything that is clearly yours. Furniture and shared property can go through the attorneys." Grant looked humiliated. That humiliation did not make me sad. It made me steady. He went to the bedroom first. Tanner followed him, not touching anything, just watching. Wesley stood near the hall. My father stayed with me. For the next hour, Grant packed like a man trying to preserve dignity after losing the room. Clothes went into suitcases. Shoes into trash bags. A watch box. a shaving kit, a stack of files, his golf clubs, his gaming console, a framed photo from a trip we took to Asheville that he almost packed before realizing I was staring at it. He set it down. I took it and dropped it into the trash. That was the only petty thing I did inside the loft. I do not regret it. Outside, Willow's crying turned into shouting. You told me she was leaving. Grant came out carrying a duffel bag. I thought she was. You thought? He looked at me through the open doorway. She manipulated this. Willow followed his gaze. For a second, I thought she was going to yell at me. Instead, she said, did he know? I looked at her. Know what? That it was yours. The room went quiet. Grant said, Willow. She shouted over him. Did he know? I held her stare. Yes. Her face crumpled. That was the moment I understood something I did not want to understand. Grant had lied to both of us, but not in the same way. He had lied to me with betrayal. He had lied to her with promises. Neither lie made her innocent in my eyes, but it made the picture uglier. She stepped back from him like he had become a stranger. You said she was using you, she whispered. You said you paid for everything. Grant looked cornered. I did pay. I paid the HOA. I paid bills. I contributed. To a place you didn't own, she said. His silence answered for him. My brothers helped carry Grant's packed things downstairs only after he agreed. They placed everything beside the moving truck. They did not throw anything. They did not break anything. There was no drama he could point to later. Just consequences. When the last suitcase was out, Grant stood in the doorway with the attorney's papers in one hand and his keys in the other. He looked at me differently then. Not with love. Not regret. Fear. You really hate me this much? He asked. I stepped closer. No, I said. That's the part you'll never understand. His eyes searched mine. I don't hate you enough to destroy my own life for revenge. I just finally love myself enough to stop letting you live in it. He looked down. For one brief second, I saw the man I had married. Then he was gone again. You'll regret this, he said. I held out my hand. The keys. His jaw clenched. Behind him, Willow stood near the truck, sobbing with one arm around her stomach. I did not look away from Grant. After a long moment, he dropped the keys into my palm. They were warm from his hand. That detail almost broke me. I stepped back and said, leave. Grant walked out without another word. My father closed the door after him, but I locked it myself. The deadbolt slid into place with a sound that felt final and hollow. For a while, nobody moved. Then Tanner said, do you want us to stay? I shook my head. Monica came over later with food I barely touched. My father checked every window. Wesley changed the code on the smart lock. Tanner took the trash out, including the photo I had thrown away. By evening, they were gone. And I was alone. The loft was mine. The walls were still mine. The kitchen, the windows, the room Grant wanted to turn into a nursery. All of it was still mine. But the life I thought I had was gone. I sat on the floor of the guest room after everyone left. The paint samples were still there, scattered like evidence. Pale green. Warm white. Butter yellow. I gathered them into a pile and threw them away. Then I opened the closet and found the tiny yellow onesie I had hidden months before. I held it against my chest and cried harder than I had cried on the night Grant told me everything. Not because I wanted him back. I cried for the version of me who kept hoping. The version who blamed herself. The version who thought if she loved him carefully enough, he would choose her. A week has passed since moving day. Grant and Willow are staying in an extended stay motel outside Raleigh. I know that because his mother called me and screamed it into my voicemail. She said I was cruel. She said Willow was pregnant. She said no decent woman would do what I did. Some of our friends agree with her. They say I should have told him on day one. They say I let Willow give up her apartment just to make the punishment hurt more. They say I dragged an unborn baby into my revenge. Maybe they're right about part of it. I do not feel sorry for Grant. I don't think I ever will. He could have left. He could have told the truth. He could have found an apartment like every other adult who ends a marriage. Instead, he tried to take my home and wrap his betrayal in legal language. But Willow is harder. I still see her standing on the sidewalk with one hand on her stomach, realizing the life she had been promised did not exist. I don't know how much she knew. I don't know how much she ignored. I don't know if she was another victim of Grant's lies or just someone who thought my pain would stay conveniently out of sight. That uncertainty is what keeps the story from feeling clean. People want revenge to feel clean. It doesn't. It leaves ash everywhere. The loft is quiet now. I changed the locks legally. The attorney is handling the divorce response. Patrick sent over updated property records for my files. Monica checks on me every day, even though I know she still thinks I went too far. Sometimes I stand in the kitchen and remember the night Grant dropped the envelope on the counter. The sauce burning. The rain. His voice saying she's pregnant. Then I remember the keys landing in my palm. I kept my home. I lost the life I thought I was building. And I still don't know if that makes me cruel, strong, or just finally awake.